Hello. Do we have sound? Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How's it going, everyone? We're live. We're as live as we can get on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Callin. What's up, Rockfin people? How you doing? Okay, great. We have sound. All right. Good to see y'all here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I don't know why I'm not showing any viewers on YouTube, but that's weird and also typical of YouTube. I don't know. I know that there are people watching because they're chatting, so strange. Okay. Yeah, pretty crazy news from Mississippi. Large tornado coming through and well, ending the whole experience for a bunch of people there. That's what it looks like. Some of the ruin that is fairly insane. Serious devastation. From what they are calling a supercell. Supercell storm. Poppy Davis, yeah, a tornado went 100 miles. And you know what's it's crazy. The article I'm going to read on this from the Guardian. Actually, said something about people building homes in tornado prone areas. Although, sure. Um, and that's an interesting insight. However, what this Guardian article didn't say anything about is the fact that these storms are becoming more frequent and more violent due to, you guys know, anybody? They didn't one time mention climate change in this article. And the reality is, what's making the atmospheric rivers and the bomb cyclones happen more often? What's making all the tornado activity happen more often? What's making the hurricanes happen more often? What's making cyclones longer and stronger? Anybody? So it's interesting that they bring up, building, I guess, people moving in, to certain areas where maybe they might be more prone to face the wrath from these storms. But not one mention of climate change in this article. And I thought the Guardian was super pro climate cult. That's what I thought. I thought the Guardian was super pro climate cult. Andre says, I haven't heard the term climate change once on all the reporting. Nope. The cult, if you're new, the cult is actually industrial civilization, and that humans are doing fine and we're going to make it and everything's going to be okay. And if only the bad guys would just get out of the way, we'll be fine. Okay. That's the cult. and people seem to have a hard time understanding that. Poppy Davis says researchers found that fewer tornadoes were touching down in the Great Plains and that more were hitting the southeast. Yeah, it seems like there are more in different and stranger places, but these are getting stronger, more frequent, and more deadly if you're paying attention. Devastating storms and at least one large tornado ripped through rural Mississippi on Friday night. Left 23 people dead in the state, dozens injured, and rescue workers hauling people from rubble on Saturday morning as the death toll was expected to rise. Severe weather pounded several southern states. Overnight, as centers of destruction emerged on Saturday morning, as the small majority black towns of Rolling Fork and Silver City in the Mississippi Delta. As the sheer scale of devastation was revealed, Rolling Fork's Mayor Eldridge Walker declared, "My city is gone." Speaking to CNN as images circulated of entire neighborhoods flattened to rubble, cars crumpled, and trees shorn of their leaves. We're going to come back. Build back better. Anyways. Pretty horrible devastation. The death toll from the night's extreme weather rose to 24, although they're expecting more to find more people. Storm system was a supercell, the kind that brew the deadliest tornadoes and most damaging hail in the United States. Meteorologists had seen a big tornado risk coming for the general region as much as a week in advance. Tornado experts have been warning about increased risk exposure in the region because people there are building more. You mix a particularly socio-economically vulnerable landscape with a fast-moving, long-track nocturnal tornado, and disaster will happen. So they're blaming it on people building buildings there. That's interesting. That is interesting. But I went all the way through this article, not one mention of climate change. Which I find extremely interesting. Which goes to show you they're not trying to push it down your throats, are they? They're not even mentioning it. Which, according to some people, is, it's agenda number one, right? We're going to have climate lockdowns next, and it's climate change. Due to climate change, they're going to do things to people, but they never seem to mention it when it when it could be probably applicable. I don't hear any news stories, at least in the U.S., on the TVs. I don't see widespread coverage of the fact that there's no snow in the Alps, that Europe is in a major drought, that crops are being damaged. I didn't see anything about the Chinese heat wave, heat anomalies going on earlier this month. Wow, it seems like they're really pushing this thing. Man, they are pushing it. Not at all. All right. Another crazy story from yesterday, unrelated to climate change, but related to the devastation that we're doing to the planet. There was some attacks on American bases in Syria yesterday. I don't know. Well, thank God we still have troops there. Otherwise, we wouldn't get attacked. Nadia says reputedly the Permian Triassic had hypercanes circling the equator. They were kicking up massive amounts of hydrogen sulfide from under the sea to overland. Okay. Noam Chomsky says USA troops should stay in Syria. Oh my God. I thought we were trying to get out of Syria, but no, I actually, if anything, this story is probably a reason for us to stay in, and it doesn't bode well. Apparently they were attacked by pro-Iranian forces or whatever that means, or Iranian-backed rebels or something. But considering that Saudi Arabia and Iran now have a peace accord, and there are rumors that Syria and Saudi Arabia will also have a peace accord. What does that mean for the balance of power in the Middle East? Syria is complicated. I don't know if it's that complicated. We went in there to overthrow their country. It's not that complicated, and we used ISIS as a proxy. ISIS is Al Qaeda, and ISIS is funded by us. So ISIS was not the bad people. They were there to help us have a reason to be there, to get in there, and it's Syria is just another Ukraine, Iraq, if you will, Yemen, Libya. We are there to secure the last of the resources. That's what we're there for. However, the fact that Iran and Saudi Arabia have a peace accord, and that they might be bringing Syria into it, I mean, it's kind of raises the specter that the countries there that still have control over some of the oil fields. We occupy in Syria this portion of the Syria that has the most of the oil. That's why we're there. That's what we're there for. And the fact that oil producing nations, and Iraq is not happy with us either, right? Don't forget about Iraq. Iraq is probably more, has more in line now with Iran or other countries in the region than us. Steve Breedlove says, I'm aware it's still complicated. U.S. is in the autonomous zone. People often say it is U.S. proxy government despite over 100 years of resistance. Okay. I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on there, but, it is part of what was the plan? There was a defense mucky muck many years ago who said that, we had a plan to go after Iraq, Yemen, Syria. It was like 5 nations there. I can't remember all the nations. Iran, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and there's something else in there. 7 countries in 7 years. Thank you, Nadia. That's actually more precise. Wesley Clark, thank you. Was Saudi Arabia in one of those countries, or were they just doing all the other ones? Anyways, there was a plan long ago, and you're right, Nadia. I don't think that Saudi Arabia wasn't in there. But anyways, that was a plan long ago, and look how the plan has unfolded. I see, though, regional resistance kind of looming. And that's not a good situation considering, that Israel is out bombing. Israel just bombed the Damascus airport, last week, which is where lots of earthquake relief aid was coming into the country. So, humanitarianism, again, right? We're there to help people, you know. Like Israel is bombing, several countries around in the region, probably at our behest, right? Not because Israel is just like, I don't know, we just, screw these guys. I mean, I'm sure they have reasons. I'm sure they've got reasons, marked down in a notebook somewhere. A reason, this is why we had to do it, because something, something, something. But it doesn't, it's a mess. It's a mess there. We're trying to control it, control what we can there. We're still in Iraq. We're still, we are in Syria. We are still in Iraq. We have a presence in Libya still, definitely. They have oil. We're trying to control. We're trying to just be right there, right? Because it's getting dicey. The last of the world's resources, and who controls what as things unravel, right? And Russia has lots of oil and resources. I I don't know that it wouldn't be surprising to see, more concerted resistance in the Middle East against our presence there. Anyways, remember a few years ago when there was some footage of like Russian tanks running American vehicles like off out of a region? There was like some direct confrontation there that didn't turn into anything, but that's another thing to remember in that region, is that Russia is there as a protector to Syria. They were invited in by Syria, and so that's there are a lot of tensions there. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, we're going back to climate change and or the idea that there's too many people being a cult. I don't, it's weird. I do appreciate Tucker Carlson's reporting as of late on most things, but when he gets to this, this just sounds like the repetition of the line. USA and Russia armies have been communicating it for a decade in Syria to try and not bomb each other. Yeah, absolutely. It's a classic kind of standoff there, where they both entities have a presence there, but they're trying not to let something happen that would lead to an escalation. So they are actually, on some levels, exhibiting diplomacy. But this is hilarious, excuse me, because he's got a thumbnail talking about the climate cult. The one that's trying not to tell you what's going on with climate change. But he's talking about how the elites are. This is retweeted by Slow News Day, by the way. But how the elites are They think there are too many people on the earth. Those battle. You know, the funny thing is about this particular narrative is that people on the left, you can't talk about overpopulation on the left either, right? People in Extinction Rebellion, people in polite circles. If you bring up overpopulation as a reason why climate change might be happening, or if you bring up overpopulation as a reason why we might be destroying the planet, oh, you can't say that. That's completely racist. Oh, that's not. We can't bring that up. We can't talk about that. That's off the table. That is. So it's funny because I don't. Where's the cult part? There isn't necessarily a climate cult because everybody on. Everybody in the respectable climate change circles, respectable left, even I guess you could say, I don't know what you call it, the mainstream, democratic left, you can't bring up overpopulation. That's what's, doesn't actually lend any credence to this narrative or this, right? I mean, you could say the elites, maybe the elites, like in private, right, or in back rooms or whatever, sure, the elites are into it, and I'm not negating that. That they might not have ideas about that, but Nadia, yeah, you're right. The elites, billionaires, capitalist class bred us like part of a livestock Ponzi scheme. Exactly. Listen. You can't have this, global growing capital. You can't have this global whatever neoliberal capitalist, super hyper, all the, exchange of goods and shipping everything all over the world. And, you can't have all this unless you have consumers. You understand that? That's just a basic, part of the equation. If you don't have consumers, then you don't have growth capitalism. You just don't. You don't. That's why Elon Musk is saying, oh, we're in trouble. We need to have more kids. That's why countries around the planet who have, decreasing fertility rates always put out these emergency, flashing red signals. We have decreasing, fertility rates in our country. This means bad things for our economy. Why? Because without a growing consumer base, you have, what do you have? You have contraction. And contraction is bad for economies. Contraction is bad for the entire thing. Right? Everything always must grow all the time. People on the left won't let you talk about this, and people on the right won't let you talk about this. Methinks it might be a concerted effort to try not to let you talk about this. So, every time I hear, the big brains talking about this stuff, I'm always like, oh my God, here we go again. Creative Experiment says, I think Slow News Day took climate fascism the wrong way. Fascism is to ramp up corporate production in the face of climate change, not riding buses. Well, that's the thing is, it's just... This is actually a very nuanced conversation. There's a lot going on here. But how again, and I don't know, I just repeat myself all the time. If there really truly is a controlled demolition of our society or the way or our economy or whatever, then how do these people stay in control? How do people keep their billions? How to keep, where do people get their stuff from, right? If you're demolishing, I don't get it. The whole thing is exactly what Nadia said, a Ponzi scheme on some level. But if you do actually try to destroy the economy or destroy, if you build this thing up and you tell everybody this is the dream and this is the way it all works and this is how we do it and this is how you succeed within this framework of this, and then you tell them like, well, all of that is off the table now, null and void, right? Then you have a bunch of people going, what the, right? So it's no wonder people don't want to hear this, right? Because they've been told this thing since they were born, right? From the moment you're born, this is how it works, and this is how you succeed, and this is what you do to get along in the world, and how everybody loves to live, right? And then if you actually put out there that, oh no, actually this is, everything we're doing is wrong, people are going to be like, what? And then how are you going to stay in control? If that's what you're actually trying to do, how do you stay in control? Because not only economically is it, not as tenuous at best, but you're going to get a major revolt from 8 billion people, right? Who are like, you told me this is what, what we were supposed to be doing. And now you're telling me something different. Well, F you, pal, right? And that's what, they're not going to stay in control. You're not going to stay in control. So I don't know where this narrative comes from. I'm not really sure. I mean, it's just, you can say on one level it's just basic, humanism, right? Human supremacy. Which all humans are the best, and they're all the best, and we're always the best, and we're always the best, and we're the biggest and the baddest, and we're the smartest and the bestest, right? And like human supremacy. Right? To say anything against it is kind of, again, against the whole respectability thing. But I actually think there's something else going on with this narrative. That they're trying to kill you, and they're trying to take your vehicles, your personal vehicles. They're trying to tell you you're bad, you're carbon, and you're bad. They're trying to, right, like that stuff. Okie dokie. Anyways, let's watch this because it's a little laughable. I have to give it to him because right there, he's on to something, but it's like, I don't know what this Jedi mind trick thing is, where it's like, look at all the pollution we're doing and look how bad it is, and oh my God, we're, on one hand, look what we're doing to the environment. On the other hand, climate change is a cult and it's totally fake. Okay, I don't know how you square that circle. Please help me understand. Please help me. If you're the big brain, please help me. Explain it to me. Explain it to me how we're polluting, all over the planet. We're just polluting. We're just polluting, rooting, tooting, polluting. Right? We're just polluting. Pollution is bad, but climate change, totally fake. Oh, it's the same thing. Don't you understand? It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. Anyway.
Parties pushing Malthusianism, the idea that the world's overpopulated, has been the dominant way of thinking for the people in charge. Except
note the words that must be said. Malthusianism, eugenicist. Malthusians, eugenicists. Malthusian, I don't know, somewhere he's going to... Somewhere he's going to say some other words that fit right into this.
With respect to their own families, they have as many kids as they want, but you're not allowed to. And that leads to moments like the one we saw a month ago where the Harvard historian, Naomi Oreskes...
Where are you not allowed to? That's the other thing about this is like, This is truly one of those like wackadoo, like right wing, and again, it's on the left wing too. But like nobody is telling you can't have kids. I don't see one place where they're saying you can't have all the children that you could possibly pump out of your uterus. And these days it's quite popular. If you got enough money, there are a lot of women out there that are just like, oh, I want 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're like, let's have all the kids, right? They are way into it, and nobody is telling you can't have these kids. Not one government is telling you can't have kids. Elon Musk is out there telling you to have more babies. So this is false. This is totally false. Yes, maybe Bill Gates or maybe some other person out there is like, well, overpopulation is a problem, right? Yeah, because it is, and I don't know, a couple of people who might have influential positions on the planet might also understand that too. But not one government, not one country, and he goes on to say that they're encouraging you, the Democrats are encouraging you to kill your babies. No, they're not. They are not. They are not doing that. They're saying we want a right to choice, right? A right to our own bodies. Nobody is encouraging people to get rid of that's not happening. I'm sorry. That is just false, and that's a lie. So I don't know. The entire premise of this video is based on some bullshit, but it's like enough people in this particular vein of journalism just repeat this all the time without anything backing it up. I don't really understand. Where are you getting this from?
Wrote an op-ed in Scientific American entitled 8 billion people in the world is a crisis, not an achievement.
That's because that's true. Scientific American. What? I mean, it's a crisis. Sometimes Tucker can be, super silly. What are they talking? That is just crazy. He's pushing this out there without, there's no context, there's no data, there's no, right? It's just pushed out there with an emotional response. What? This is lunacy. Right. That's the way it's presented. In the same way that, Rachel Maddow, Matt Taibbi yesterday is saying Rachel Maddow is just appealing to your emotions, right? She's appealing to an emotional response. What? So he's doing the same thing, right? Yes, it is shock news.
Well, if you're one of those 8 billion, that seems like hostility. If some chick is writing a piece in a science magazine...
So why is that hostility too? I just don't get all of these arguments. I hear every single person who repeats this stuff say the same things. They hate you. They want to kill you. They hate you. It's hostility. It's not hostile if somebody's saying, hey, could we look at this from a different viewpoint? I'm not interested in I'm not trying to hurt people, and I don't want people to die. I just want people to think about bringing more people into the world. That's all, right? And that's this thing. First thing they go to, they hate you. They want to kill you. There's too many people. Who are you going to kill first? Dude, could you possibly, right? It's like, I've used this analogy before. You have a family. You have 2 kids. Either one of the parents says, well, what do you think about having another kid? And one parent goes, you know what? I don't know. I think we're stretched too thin to have another kid. Maybe we should re-examine. That's not wild-eyed lunacy. That is actually called being thoughtful and having consideration for the economy of your household, or for your own well-being, right? Self-control. There you go, Osama. Huh? right? Or if you have, let's say you have 3 or 4 kids, but and you have tight finances, you're not going to be like, well, man, we got a lot of kids to feed. Man, what are we going to do? You're probably not going to be like, well, let's kill one of the children. That's not what you're going to do. And it's not what you're going to, come on, man. It's just really stupid. It's just a stupid argument. Like, you're not saying, oh, we need to kill some people. Are there lunatics that run the world that have no consideration or care for human life, for other human life that is not theirs or people that they know? Sure. Absolutely. But the looking at the whole and considering the well-being of the whole and saying, like, maybe we shouldn't add more to the whole because the well-being of the whole might be, being impinged upon by, so many, right? There is, like, any basic science about the Petri dish, right? Cells in a Petri dish, multiplying until the point where they overrun, any kind of nutrients in the dish, and then everybody dies, right? And that's the basic tenet of this argument, or the idea of overshoot, where a population. I read a really good article a couple of weeks ago about what overshoot means, about the deer on the Alaskan island, right? Was it deer? I think it was deer. Where a population expands so quickly, right, that they overrun all the food sources, they foul their nest, basically, and what happens is pretty much the entire population dies. That's a horrific end to that, scientific experiment. And that's what we're doing on this planet, is a scientific experiment, right? We're, hey, how about some more people, more stuff, more consuming, more polluting, more people, more stuff, more consuming, more polluting. That's the cycle, Tucker. Or any of the other big brains out there that are talking about this, that's the cycle. Consuming, polluting, right? Until we get to a point where we're like, well, this experiment, we think this experiment is going great, until it's not. And what you're doing is setting up humanity for that crash in the Petri dish, right? Where everything dies. Or the crash on the island where all, the deer are like, man, we've never had more deer than ever. Deer are just living it up on this island. Deer are the kings of this island. And then, you get to the point where all the deer all die horrifically, right? That's a horrific situation. Anyways. Just saying, Tucker. Just saying.
About how your existence is bad. That might make you nervous, right? It should. And it may explain why these people oppose nuclear energy, which seems like a solution, but they're against that too. So it's not really about carbon emissions, is it? It's about hurting people, specific.
What? How do you get here? How do you get here from there? I mean, I'm just saying this is, this is some class A moron stuff right here. But, and anybody repeating this, hint, hint, is living in the class A moron world. But anyways.
They think there are too many people. And this view is very widespread. It's why the leaders of the Democratic Party are always in your face telling you to get an abortion. Hurry up and get an abortion. It'll help the GDP.
Really? Nobody's saying that. God dang, that's dumb. Nobody is saying that. Nobody's saying get an abortion and it'll help the GDP. Who is saying that? I mean, everything about this has, zero ties to reality. And I don't know. The thing that pissed me off about this the most was just that was a completely emotional appeal. They hate you. That sounds really hostile, that article. I don't know. Everything about it was geared towards making you so angry that you couldn't even have a conversation about it with somebody. Oh my God, you're one of those people. You're in a cult. Okay. They're against nuclear energy. What? Okay. Again, how do we drift from really, I don't know, basic common sense issues and how we could like better society or better the country or better the planet? How do we drift from these issues to like this wild-eyed, like, I don't know, this the fear mongering is a trip, because that truly it's true. Like, we could talk about fear mongering and the COVID thing, totally real, but like there's a lot of fear mongering going on the other side, which is like, oh my God, they're trying to, they want to kill you. They want to take away your personal vehicle. Oh my God. They're telling you to kill your babies to help the GDP. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that. Who is saying that? Show me somebody who is saying that. I don't know. And the funny thing is, if you actually understand the idea around overpopulation, do you care about the GDP? Like, seriously. They're saying what he's saying is the opposite of what actually every country in the world is trying, and what Elon Musk is saying. Have more babies to save the GDP, right? They all are terrified of having, a negative birth rate, falling fertility rates, and seeing their economy get wiped out. Why? Because the consumer base is getting smaller and smaller. There's nobody to sell all this stuff to. We can't possibly sell all this stuff to people and make all this stuff. It's a massive cratering from underneath of the growth economic paradigm, right? So anybody who's really concerned about GDP, climate change, and or overshoot, actually understands that GDP has got to go with it, right? That's the point, right? If you it's the GDP that's killing the, so why would you urge people to not have babies to help the GDP? What? I don't know. Anyways, he missed, swing and a miss on this one, Tucker. Big swing and a miss. Came out your shoes on this one. Ominous Heat says Tucker's boss has done the math. Climate cult gets as many viewers as the stolen election lie. I don't know. That's not a lie, though. I have to disagree with you. But it's, all of it is very interesting. Maybe it is a lie. Maybe it isn't. I just, we'll just, for conversation's sake, I disagree with you on that one. But, and the funny thing is there was a whole stolen election lie, when Trump won, right? There was a whole stolen, Russia, it wasn't a real election because Russia helped Trump get elected. It was that they literally said stolen election and had hearings about it every day in Congress for years. And that got headlines. Those were huge headlines. Those were CNN and MSNBC just racking up the dollars there and the viewers with those headlines. So it's the same thing. It's no different. They all lie. and they all fudge the elections, right? They all are tinkering with the elections. So that's the truth about that, is that they're all tinkered with. But that was a frustrating. Nadia says, funny how no one questioned 2000, especially after 9/11. Well, you're right. You're right. And it wasn't long after he wasn't in office very long, was he? So if you were mad about the 2000 election, and a lot of people actually were, I was furious. I was infuriated. I was I was livid and I was very dejected and depressed. But yes, you're right. People didn't have a long time to feel those particular feelings before they were forced into feeling some other feelings, right? Anyways, to follow up on his, just to give some rationality, bring rationality back into the conversation. Until public discussion turns in the direction of managed energy descent and rationing, nothing will happen to avert climate hell. Oh, you know what, y'all? Man, I forgot. I wanted to read you something. I might have to take a quick 20-second break and go get something to read to you. Net zero means the R word, rationing, and that is what will end the attempts in the U.S. Well, I was saying, nobody, trying to convince people that they should have a less comfortable way of life than they do now is a very hard sell indeed, right? You're not going to sell anybody on that. But this is precisely about economic growth. And why it is GDP or economic growth that is driving the destruction and the pollution, Tucker. Pollution's bad. I agree. Pollution's really bad, but this climate cult thing, that's got to go. Okay. Right? Okay. We all know what needs to be done, reduce carbon emissions, but so far we members of global humanity just haven't been able to turn the tide. The latest IPCC report documents that carbon emissions are still increasing, despite all the promises and efforts of the past few decades. When is this? This is from 2 days ago. The report tells us that there's only a narrow and rapidly shrinking pathway, again and again, to averting climate catastrophe. They don't want to tell you that pathway is already pretty much shut. But, never say never. The path requires us to cut emissions 50% by 2030. How are we going to do that? And to reach net zero emissions by 2050. So far, we're going in the opposite direction. Why is this so hard? Because it would require sacrifice. Why would it require sacrifice? Let's walk through the logic. Lowering emissions requires reducing our extraction and burning of fossil fuels. Ding, 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 ding. But right now, 85% of our energy comes from fossil fuels. I'll probably say that is very generous on the other side, but we'll see. And energy is what makes the economy go and grow. Replacing fossil fuels with low emissions energy sources like solar and wind would still give us energy. But right now it takes fossil energy to build solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, and all other electrical infrastructure we would need to replace the fuel-based infrastructure we now have. I don't know how many times I've been doing this channel for a really long time, and we've read. I don't know how, I can't even count how many articles I've read that have laid exactly this argument out. This person, bless their soul, is laying it out again for us. Renewable energy sources require energy investment up front for construction. They pay for themselves energetically over a period of years. Therefore, a fast transition requires increased energy usage over a short term. Right. Everybody says to build it out, you'll have to actually go up in emissions. Again, the only way to reliably reduce emissions is to cut fossil fuel extraction and combustion directly and immediately. That means stop trying. At least, don't, that means do not. Just don't. Don't replace the thing. Don't build the more infrastructure. Don't do the new, just don't. How about a don't? Directly and immediately, as we've seen over the past decades, just waiting for renewables to replace fossil fuels is too slow. Global emissions increased last year despite a record nearly 10% growth in renewables. So, if more fossil energy will be needed for the energy transition, but we need to extract less coal, oil, and gas overall, that means that, at least over the next couple of decades, much less fuel will be available for non-transition purposes, i.e. for transport, manufacturing, and food production, which are the mainstays of the economy. That's why we can't just do it. That's why when governments get to decision points like having to approve or deny permits to drill for oil in Alaska, the decision often goes in favor of more fossil energy extraction. By the way, mainstream reporting on Biden's recent approval of Willow Oil Project has missed the fact that the approval probably had a lot to do with declining amounts of oil flowing through the Alyeska pipeline that delivers oil to the West Coast states. If the amount of flow declines much more due to the depletion of older oil fields, the pipeline could freeze up in the winter and become useless, depriving those blue states of 500,000 barrels a day of crude, which would be hard to replace. Again, as I said the other day, don't protest the pipeline, protest the reason for the pipelines. But, y'all can't, humans can't really think that far down the road. Sorry if that's mean, but it's true. It's true. So they punt. Our collective impasse in addressing climate change is the fault not just of greedy oil executives. Policymakers want to avoid any decision that would result in economic hardship. Bing, bing, bing. What did I just say? The economy is king. Growth economy is king. Growth economy is king. Economy is king. But what about the economy? Is really the bottom line of everything. Suggesting any solution that in any way hinders the growth of the economy or suggests a degrowth of the economy is, like head explosion type stuff. So they punt in favor of business as usual, and as a result, the pathway to averting climate doom narrows that much more. At the same time, our fossil fuel supplies deplete further, giving us less of an energy cushion for building an energy system to replace the current one that relies on coal, oil, and gas. The best answer is a managed reduction in fossil fuel extraction accompanied by a rationing system that preferentially directs declining fossil fuel supplies towards energy transition projects. I'm still not a fan of that. I would actually, maybe a little bit, but not in a major way. But I'm not totally against it. But you couldn't make it a consumer, right? A profit-driven enterprise. If it was a profit-driven enterprise, then that is a failing. And you're not going to fix climate change with profits. So you would have to divert that energy towards making renewable energy sources that you would basically give to people. Here's a community solar panel, or here's a panel for your house. Right? You'd have to take the profit motive completely out of it, because it would be about what? Saving the planet, right? So profit doesn't matter at that point. And again, if you're going to do that, you'd have to take it out of the hands of the fossil fuel companies. Are you going to do that? You'd have to nationalize the fossil fuel companies, say this is the rest of what we got is ours to delegate how we deemed necessary. And one way we're not going to do it is pumping it into personal vehicles and airplanes. So that's all going to go. So, but nobody's going to. What? What are you saying? That's madness. They're trying to take away your personal vehicle. Whatever. The best answer is managed reduction in fossil fuel extraction, accompanied by a rationing system that preferentially directs declining fuel supplies towards energy transition projects, while distributing remaining fuel supplies to industry and households for only the most essential purposes. Notice he said distributing, not selling, distributing. Programs would also be needed to offset the impacts of scarce energy on lower income households and countries. Policymakers may find this unthinkable, and most people would find it unthinkable if you can't explain what's going on to people so that they are allowed to actually think through the problem. We don't like this pipeline. Boo! We hate this pipeline. Boo! Okay. Your energy would better be spent standing at a gas station, like having a sit-in at a gas station and just saying, "Stop buying this oil, people. You're killing yourselves and the planet, and you're creating the need for these pipelines." What we should do is, or a massive boycott of gas stations, right? I don't know. Something like that. Something a little bit more, like thought out. Or how do you boycott, how do you get people together enough and educate them to the point where they're like, well, this is the thing that is actually the thing that's destroying the planet. And because you're using the thing, you're actually encouraging more destruction of the planet. So maybe we should just stop using the thing. Look for ways to stop using the thing. Something like that. Policymakers find this unthinkable because they have built their careers on the assumption that the economy must always grow. The people must always be promised the opportunity to consume more. Yet until public discussion turns in the direction of managed energy descent and rationing, nothing will ever happen to avert climate hell, which is a shame for two reasons. First, of course, it condemns present and future generations to weather extremes and all the suffering associated with hotter and less stable conditions. Second, it forecloses the possibility of an energy descent in which hardships are fairly shared, along with opportunities for learning to live better with less. This, that these are logical. He's not saying, "Oh, who are you going to kill?" He's not saying that. He's saying we're going to share less energy as we, descend down the stairs of industrial civilization, and maybe we can soften the landing instead of having 6,000 deer on the island die all at once. Soften the landing, share the burden of, we got ourselves into this mess. How are we going to get out? Let's think it through. Think that one through. Anyways. Such opportunities could be plentiful if only we were to look for them. We're at a crisis point. Sacrifice is needed. Only a sacred cow will do. Economic growth is our society's most sacred of cows. And guess what? The cow is sick anyways. True. Well, we may get it anyways if, the economy collapses. To the extent that some people say it will. I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I appreciate you hanging out with me every day. A really good way to support the channel is buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. Rockfin tips? No. Greatly appreciated. You can also super chat me on YouTube. Thank you. And there are links for Venmo and Cash App in the description box of all the platforms I'm on. All right. Thanks so much. Until next time, peace.